Hey everybody, how's it going? We're gonna talk about flatting, and we're gonna go over it very slowly today. But before we get into that, I'm gonna start showing off just like what my workflow is and like how I'm able to get everything done that I can. Give me a second here. I'm gonna take off my headphones. Yeah, so that's a little more comfortable. So we're gonna talk about my workflow. We're gonna talk about how to flat, and we are gonna slow it down like freaking crazy because I actually got some feedback that there we go. I actually got some feedback that I was moving a little too fast, and that's just force of habit. That's just me working the way that I work. Like, I've been doing this since 2003 professionally, and working in Photoshop since about 2000 anyway. So that's like just 17 years of being familiar with the program, having it set up the way that I want it set up. And I will say that even though we're going to go over the workflow, it's not like this isn't like this is the way it should be, because like nothing in art is like that. This is the way that like I've kind of perfected it the way I wanted it over the last 17 years. Like, this is kind of where I've grown accustomed to everything. So before we jump into that, hey Chops, I will say too that if you're starting with Photoshop and you want to get faster, they make these little like silicone like mats that go over keyboards that will show you where all of the hotkeys are if you're like trying to learn that kind of thing. Everything's got a hotkey, so it's tough to see when you're on stream, but I don't know if it's so when you hover over, it says, like, it's tough to see on stream, but when you hover over on something, it says lasso to tool L, and that L is the hotkey for the lasso tool. So a lot of times when I flat, I'm bouncing between the lasso tool here and the wand over here. Wand is W, so I'm bouncing between W and L, and both of those are set so that anti-alias is off. That's up here. You want to make sure that's off because you want a clean, crisp, like cut yourself shaving pixels on the thing. If they're blurry, it won't work for flats. Now and we're not going to get into flatting quite yet. What I wanted to show you as well, so like that's one of the things that speeds up my workflow, is using hotkeys. Hotkeys are very important, and as you use them more and more, it'll get super easy. It's like anything. So mostly it's just that, and then the fill command, which is God, I haven't even used, like, it's muscle memory at this point for me. I gotta actually do a fill command. Yeah, Option delete, I believe. Yeah, it's muscle memory. I don't even remember it. So yeah, if it's like flatting is basically all of that. And then if you want to fade the fill, like you take we're going to take a dark blue here, we're going to fill it with dark blue, but maybe we want 50% or something like that. It's Shift Command F. It should be. Or it's not that. Huh. What is Photoshop doing? The fade thing is working in my actions, which I'm going to get into in a second, but it is not working. There we go. For some reason, it's like it's working with selection, but it's not working with actual raw thing. So yeah, Shift Command F, and I guess you want a selection. I've never filled without a selection. I've never just blanket filled layer. So, but yeah, it'll bring up the fade, and then you can kind of tweak it however you want. Yeah, so that's kind of like, those are the tools of flatting. Those are the tools of getting everything done. So it's, just to recap it, it's wand, which is W, lasso, which is L, fill, which is Option Delete, and then fade fill, which is Shift Command F. And if you ever get confused, like I said, you hover over, and it'll give you the the hotkey for it. So if you're like, oh, I can't remember the hotkey, hover your mouse over the tool you want to use, and it'll give it to you. It'll also, like, if you say we made a selection, we filled it, and you're like, oh, I don't remember what fade fill is. It should be in here. Yeah, right here. So everything's labeled. On the left side, you have like what Photoshop is going to do, and on the right side, you have like the hotkey for it, which is Shift Command F. So, and on PC, it'll tell you what it is on PC. Like it's not Command. It might be Alt. I can't remember. Maybe Control. I really, it's one of those two. So yeah, so that's kind of like how I get everything done, but it also works, and I hope that you can see this. Yes, you can. So this is my Wacom tablet, and these are all the settings that I have set up for it. As you can see, like the left side, and it looks exactly like this. There's a ring, couple of buttons, and then like 2 buttons down here, and then 3 buttons down here. The pen looks exactly like this, and these are everything that I have set up, and I'm going to talk about most of them right now. There's a lot that I actually don't use that much. Like, I actually don't bounce around between brush selection and rotate a lot. I usually just keep it at brush size, and then you move your thumb around this thing or finger or whatever, and the brush size changes. These buttons these numbers right here on the right side are the 0, 3, and 5. By pressing those, you hotkey brushes so that they change their opacity. 0 is 100%, 3 is 30%, 5 is 50%. And then Shift and Option are just good for lassos and that kind of thing. A lot of times when you make a selection with the lasso, like I'm making a selection, if you hold down Option, you can actually take your finger off the mouse and it still holds the selection, and it actually turns into like an angular kind of selection, and then you can just click, click, click. And then if you're like, and I'm still holding down Option, and then if you're like, oh, I want to also like do a little drawing with it because I'm like going around a finger or something, you can still click and drag, and then you can even let go again, hands off the thing, and then it won't finish until you like let go of Alt. Like I'll let go right now, boom, completed the selection. So that's kind of like one of the virtues of Alt. And then Shift is if you want to like add to the selection. So like if you make a selection like this, you hold down Shift, and it's kind of tough to see, but right now it says the lasso has a little negative next to it, a little negative icon. Hey Kate, the lasso's got like a negative icon next to it. If you hold down Shift, it turns into a positive. So you're adding to the selection. So a lot of times with my workflow, when I sit here, I have the lasso set to negative. What I like to do is select all the figures on the page, and then, and you've seen this on as recently as my last stream, select all the figures on the page, and then I just start carving out all the light parts. Like everything that I think is going to be a highlight, I'll get rid of. I'll use the lasso and like make the selection, and then what I'm left with is all the dark halves of the shading, and then I'll put down a dark color, and I'll be able to fade fill and change it to multiply and then go in. And we're going to get to all that. And I'm going very, very slowly. I'm trying. This is as slow mode as I get. You don't know, Rico, you don't know what fade fill is? You're gonna learn some shit, my man. Fade fill is a blessing, is what it is. So the reason that fade fill is a blessing is like, and you can fade anything in Photoshop. So like, just for example, like we can take a gradient here, which is G, the hotkey G, throw it through the guy, and then be like, okay, that's really red, and like we want it to pick up some of the kind of surrounding thing. So what we're gonna do is just fade it. Shift Command F. Fade menu comes up, right? So we're like, okay, well, we want it like 50%. Oh, that's 60%. That's looking pretty good. Maybe actually a little more than that. So you can kind of like on the fly, as long as you don't do anything else, you know, like you do the fill and then you fade it. You can't do the fill and then make another selection and then fade within that selection. Can't do that. You can only fill and fade. And then you can be like, okay, well, it also has this nifty drop-down menu. Oh man, you guys are picking up all my tactics. You can also like, there's a nifty little drop-down menu and be like, okay, well, like that red's good, but I wish it was like darker, you know? Click it down to multiply, which is tough because it's a bright color, or you click it down to screen so it's lighter instead. You know, like you can mess with like all this kind of stuff, color burn, you know, and it turns into this freaking weird purple on this light blue. Yeah, I don't know, it's weird. So that's the fade tool, lets you mess with anything, any kind of fill you got going on, any kind of anything. And if you look back, yeah, I also work with the touch off. And I'm going to get to that in a second. If you look back, over here on this side, I have hotkeys set up for fill, fade fill, and then also just fill 50%. So, and I'm going to get into why that's important. Fill 50% is really important when you're flatting something. And the reason is because you don't have to keep going back for more color choices. You can just like blaze through the thing, and I'm gonna show you how. Yeah, all of this has been, yeah, Kate, all of this has been in Photoshop for the last, God, I mean, as long as I've been using it, so 17 years. It's been in there. Photoshop is a deep program. So now, this stuff I really don't use. This stuff is like, I don't use the eraser, but I use undo and deselect. I feel like those are when I'm using the pen, I'm either doing selections or I'm doing like straight up painting. And undo and deselect are like the top things that I'm using. So that way I can, without really like moving the pen around, or lifting the pen and going like Apple D to deselect something and then make a new selection, I can just like make my selection, hit the fill button on the side of the monitor over here, and then deselect it, and then with, you know, just a quick touch on the pen, and then keep going. So it's really like streamlines the whole process. The only thing that I really touch the keyboard for these days is switching between tools, as far as like lasso, which is L, wand, which is W, brush, which is B, and like grad, which is G, gradient. I think that's like it. That's like pretty much what I use. So here it is, and I used the touch on my Cintiq a hell of a lot when I got it. The one thing you gotta watch out for is like when you rest your hand against it, as long as it can register where the pen is, it won't register like the palm of your hand tapping the screen. But if you lift the pen, if you like lift it just a little bit and it stops registering where the pen is, it'll show your palm as like a tap on the screen. So I was getting all these little dots and stuff. That isn't why I stopped using the touch. I actually stopped using the touch because the pen has like a little bit of tooth to it, and it wore down my cover on my Cintiq in a way where like the actual touch that I was doing like wasn't working very well. Like I don't know if it's gonna pop up. Like a 3 tap should bring up a radial menu. Oh well, I have touch off, of course. Yeah, there we go. 3 tap, no, there it is. Yeah, took twice, but like I've like worn down the cover enough that the touch like kind of doesn't work. I think it's also has to do with like the oils in my hands that are like on the screen, because I'm like leaning on the screen all day, which is a little bit gross, but that is what it is. So I also made like a radial menu that I can use if I need to do something very quickly. Like for example, if I make a selection and then I'm like okay, like we'll do it all up in here. Really crazy selection. That actually wasn't that crazy, but you see how you got like the little crawlies. I got a little hide button. It hides the selection, and unfortunately also hides the thing. There it is again. Hide is Apple H. So if you want to make a selection and then fill it and then keep the selection but see how it is, you know, like you can do that. Apple H works wonders if you're unsure and you want to like tweak it. Apple H also works wonders when you want to do something like, you know, say we're doing the hair or something like that, like whatever selection, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna Apple H because I'm not sure about that red hair, and then you can still bring up the fade menu and be like, okay, let's like play with it, see how it looks, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of my workflow, like where everything is set up. But in addition to that, I have also built custom actions, and the reason these actions are important is because they are multiple keystrokes, multiple hotkeys, like in one particular action where I could just hit one button and it's done. A lot of it is like, okay, so I make a selection and then it's like, and if you, I mean, this is kind of tough to, I like want to show you my keyboard, but so like F13 is 20% and it will just run through the action, fill, fade, 20%. And then F14 is fill, fade, 30%. And then F15 is fill, fade, 50%. You know, so it just like kind of goes through that. And that will speed up your workflow immensely as well. And I'm going to show you why when we get into the actual flatting. So now that we've like run down basically my whole setup I got going on, let me show you how everything comes together into like how it makes flatting more easy, more faster. Yeah, we got there. We got to the English eventually. So and a lot of this stuff is like, you know, select the black channel, don't deselect the black channel, that kind of thing. And now I wanted to color this Tony Moy piece. He did a fantastic job, and I played with the levels a little bit, but if you look, it's like, you know, it's not, most comic pages that I get are going to be black, white only. This has like a lot of gray in it, and Tony did this like beautiful like kind of grayish wash behind him, and I wanted to keep that. So for when we start to get into it, I'm going to show you exactly, we're going to work with this, but if this was just like regular comics, we can actually, I can show you what it would look like. So this is kind of like a quick, like, obviously, like, this is crazy, but this doesn't look great for the line art that he gave me, but it's black, it's white, and that's it, you know. And this is really good for when you're in CMYK, and this is all to show you like my actions that are over here. So say I make a selection. I'm trying to find like a good place to do this. So say I make a selection. I want to be like in here, right? And this is all enclosed in the black, all ready to go. I can like expand the selection with Shift Alt or Shift Command F15, and this is custom. This is not something that's set up through Photoshop. Shift Command F15 expands it. That's this right over here, and then I can fill it with a color. Let's fill it with a color. But look, I'm on CMYK. I'm on the black layer, which is not where I want to be. So I can deselect the black channel with Shift Command F14, and then I can do my fill, and then I can deselect. So it runs through multiple keystrokes by just like holding down Shift and Command and doing F15, F14, fill, which is just Command Delete, and then deselect, which is Command D. So it sounds like a lot, but once you do it a few times and once you practice it, you just end up burning through stuff. You just end up like fast, really fast. And that's kind of how it goes. And to make an action, all you have to do is do the action. So like we have a ton of actions over here, but we're gonna do new set, and you can turn sets off and on, you know, like whatever you need to do. We're just gonna do a new action right now. You click the little thing down here in the corner. That's a new action. New action. You can set the function key to however you want it. We're gonna do F1 with Shift and Command. We can give it a color yellow, whatever. And so now you see we have the new action in the set here, and we got it recording. So we're gonna do lasso. We're gonna do make a selection, subtract from selection. So it's gonna like add to select, like it's recording anything that we do, like set foreground color. So now when we run this action, it will select that foreground color that I just chose. Like you can make actions do any kind of complex thing that you want to do. And whenever you're done, you just hit the little stop button here. And now like we could try playing I don't know how this is going to look. We're going to try playing this. Let's pick a different foreground color. That's this right over here. And let's run the action. It made the selections that we made. It picked the other foreground color. Like you can make actions do anything in Photoshop. Obviously this is a trash set of actions, and we're going to go back to this, my regular set of actions. One of the things that I do with actions is to automate my process. So I'll finish a book and confirm trash. Yeah. I'll finish a book and I got to make JPEGs, and going through all the individual menus to like get JPEGs out the door is a fucking pain in the ass. And so what I'll do, and it's time consuming. It's like so time consuming. So what I'll do is I have an action set. Yeah, ew, JPEGs. Yeah. Well, hey, man, I've been doing this for 17 years, and JPEGs are how I live, so deal with it. So, like, I can't really send high-resolution files to the whole team very easily and have them look at it and make corrections. Like, I need to send, you know, something over email. And oftentimes, especially with like the realm with a lot of textures and layers and stuff like that, the final file might be, you know, 75 megabytes, which is like when you send 26 of them is gigantic. I want to send something that's like 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes, or whatever, however big the JPEG ends up. And so I can just do like, you know, yeah, I know Google Drive, but I don't want to make everybody download 26 things and like open them in Photoshop. I just want them to like see it, you know? uh, so I have an action set up that's like image size, export it, and then close the document without saving it. So what it does is it takes the high resolution thing, shrinks it, saves it, closes that document without saving that document. So it doesn't save the TIFF, it makes a new JPEG, and it closes it. So I just sit here, open up all of them, and just go, okay, Shift F17, when that one closes, Shift F17, when that one closes, Shift F17, and it saves an immense amount of time. So, all right, we've gone through the workflow. We've gone through all the little tips and techniques. We've gone through making actions. We've gone through how my Wacom buttons are set up. How does this work for us practically? Is that true, Rico? I didn't know that. I use it so seldomly. Maybe I just got indoctrinated into, like, you know, the culture. So how do we make this work for us? This is a piece by Tony Moy, and it's going to be a difficult thing to flat because it's a lot of like open to interpretation kind of things. It's not hard blacks, hard whites. You know, it's a kind of a monster to like wrap your head around, but you got to keep in mind like what the goals are for flatting, and the goals are to kind of make the image able so that the colorist can come in and like do their thing. And while, you know, like this is tough because that was a heavy sigh of like me going against my morals, because we're doing this for the internet and it like doesn't matter. So we're in RGB. Normally you want to be in CMYK, and you know what? We can actually This is by Tom Fowler. That is not the right one. So I can show you a little bit of like how I flat. This is by Tom Fowler. Tom Fowler, like I said, he's incredible, incredible artist. You should follow him on Twitter. I'm not sure exactly what his Twitter handle is, but if you just Google him, you'll find him. He does a lot of D&D stuff that looks fucking amazing. So we're putting it in CMYK, and then we have it set up. So we turn off the black channel, turn the little eyeball back on, and then we can just fill it, and it's underneath all the black. So we can put any kind of color we want under there, and it won't affect the black layer. And I know it looks a little bit gray. The blacks look a little bit gray, and we finish that when we finish the image. But how this ends up working is like, okay, so I just tapped L for the lasso, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna select Barda, and obviously I'm being like, I normally wouldn't be this zoomed in, but like I'm holding down Alt so that, remember, I can take my hand off the mouse if I want to, and I'm just like doing clicks, you know, like, and then so when you want to add to the selection, hold down Shift, I click the mouse, hold down Alt, and I can actually let go of Shift, and it's still going to add to the selection. So now I can, you know, I'm just holding down Alt, and see how it's got a little plus next to the icon. I can still make the selection that I need to make. And I'm just going to use this as an example. We're not going to flat the whole thing. But here's the advantage of using fade fill 50%. So I can take this, and when we're flatting, we're not making it perfect. We're not doing like skin tones. We're not worried about any of that. We're just separating things. So I can take the red, fill it, and then I can select, like, say I'm going to select this green color. So I have this like lemony green color, and we have our mouse. It is set up to subtract, which is underneath my head, but it says it's, you know, it's set up to subtract from selection. It's an old minus. So we're gonna deselect her hand, right? Her hand and her arm, because that's skin tone. And we're going to be like, okay, now normally we'd go in and like deselect all the skin tones. And I guess this is also a skin tone. I don't have Bardo reference in front of me. But so like we've deselected all the skin tone. Now we have like two colors that we want over here on the armband. We got the little dot that we're going to do one color, and we got the little like actual like attachment, like I don't know what the bracer that we're going to do another color. Instead of doing that, instead of being like, okay, let's select one color, let's fill, let's select, go back to the thing, select another color, let's fill, we can just do F15, which is my custom action to fill it, but we can just, I can walk through the custom action right now instead, where I just fill, which is option delete, fade fill, 50%, done. And then I can go like this. Okay, deselect this little thing here, and then just go fill, fade fill, 50%. And now it's like, it's a separate color. So I didn't have to go back to the color picker. I didn't have to like add, if you add like 3 clicks every time you make a selection, you're adding a ton of time over the course of the whole image. And you know, like you can just, so you just kind of like take this, what I just did, and expand it out to everything else. And then by the end of it, you're like able to be like, okay, I'm gonna grab just that. I'm gonna grab just this thing, you know, and it works. And that way you're just like, so I'm taking what is a very complicated thing that would be like, I make a selection, I fill it, I select another color, I make a new selection, I fill it, I select another color, I make a new selection, I fill it, I select another color. I'm taking that, and instead I'm just going, okay, I make one selection, fill it, pick another color, deselect part of it, fill 50%, deselect part of it, fill 50%, deselect part of it, fill 50%. And by doing that, and especially with the workflow that I have set up, where I can kind of like just like use the pen to do the selection, and then tap the side of the monitor, and then do the pen to make a selection. My pen never leaves the selections. My pen never leaves like the canvas, and I'm never like going for more colors unless, you know, like I do like 3 or 4 selections, then I might need another color. So yeah, the add subtract lasso trick is so huge. So yeah, it like streamlines the process to be very, very fast. And we're gonna get into that with Tony's thing. And actually, we're gonna color this eventually as well. Tom was nice enough to give me this line art, and I wanted to do it for Kirby's birthday, but then Kirby's birthday like came and went. Jack Kirby, but you know, what can you do? We're gonna do it eventually. Just a little sneak preview. So this guy doesn't have quite as crisp lines as that, unfortunately, but we're gonna make do. All right, I'm gonna get into it, and I have to move this thing because I'm gonna put the Cintiq in my lap. So what I'm saying is, like, you don't necessarily have to have a workflow that's identical to mine, but you should keep in mind like how actions work, how, and you know, even if you don't have a Cintiq, if you're at home, you should keep in mind like, how do you get faster? You get faster by using hotkeys, by using the the keyboard to like, I don't know why that was such a struggle, but yeah, you use the keyboard to like, you know, bounce around with the hotkeys so that you're always making selections. You use actions to speed it up. When I started, I didn't have a Cintiq, so, and like I got fast without it. You don't need all the extra stuff. And even if you want all the extra stuff that's like set up at the touch of a button, you can they make like these little and I've seen other colorists use these little like it's like a third of a keyboard that you rest your hand into for like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. And you can program them to be like whatever commands you need them to be, and you can use something like that and that'll work. I heard this is some crazy shit. Like, I really want to try this. I'm gonna let you in on something that I've been mentally, it's been percolating. I heard that some people are using like flight sim pedals in Photoshop, so that way they're like, you know, one's shift, one's alt, and one's like command or whatever, or like whatever it is, and they're just like stomping it like they're playing a piano, you know. I'm like stoked to try that out, but we're not there yet. Yeah, anything you can do to kind of you've seen them for speedrunning? That's really cool. Yeah, I am all about like co-opting tech that's already out there for other usage that you need. These are wrist tattoos. I don't know if you can see them. Hold on. I have they're upside down, but I can't contort my arm that way. I have a bee and boomerang, and then a sword. They're pixely sword and boomerang. Getting one of those hand panels for the hotkeys, Kate. Yeah. I've been wanting to try one just because I want to like get used to it at home, and then if I like bring like a Cintiq companion or something, all of this, like my exploration into using one of those and potentially pedals and things like that is like, you know, I want to be able to like go on the road and do some good work and like have my home base be all right. My stream just had a network error. I'm still alive, right? I'm still good? I'm there? You remapped everything in Photoshop to the left hand? Yeah. You didn't see much difference? Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff too is like, good, we're still up. A lot of this stuff too is like, you experiment and you refine and you experiment and you refine, and it's like, did this work? Did this not work? You know, what doesn't work for me might work for you, and what doesn't work for, or what works for you might not work for me. One of the things that I remember talking to Matt Wilson, he was doing a demo on in a classroom environment without his rig, and it was like he was just basically like all thumbs, because he was like, none of this stuff that's like this is very personalized for me. And Matt, who went to the same classes as me through SCAD, went and worked at the same studio that I worked at to like cut our teeth. Like, we have different work setups. It's freaking crazy. You know, it's like when you spend enough time in Photoshop, you're like, okay, what works, what doesn't, let's cut the fat, you know? And you know, the more you do it, the more you'll learn, the more you'll pick up. It's all good. So let's get into flatting this thing. Let's finally start working on Tony Moy's awesome freaking night that he made for us. Well, he didn't make it for us, but he made it for us. And by the way, you should all follow Tony Moy. He does a great job. He did this one live. He's done like 3 more live. He's doing a bunch of Inktober stuff live. Dude is great. He normally watercolors, which is why this is so watercolory. But this stuff's been awesome. I've been a fan of his for a while. You guys should check him out. He's on his Twitch is up here, and I'm sure he's got a link to his Twitter as well if you want to follow him there. He's a good dude. So like anything, this is going to be, you know, this is weird. This is weird. This is not what I want. So, oh, that's why. So this is set to multiply down. We're using layers. It is what it is. I think we're RGB. Yeah, we're RGB. Normally this is not how I do things, but I know that this isn't going to go to print, so we're just having fun. Yeah, Andy Lee. Yeah. There's a handful of artists that are doing this kind of thing. I think it's just being influenced by watercolors and that kind of thing, and obviously his heritage as well. So yeah, so obviously this is not normally what we do here on this channel. I don't know why it's doing that. We're just gonna do a fill. All right, let's get into it. It's weird that it's giving me a menu rather than no menu. And I'm far from, even though I've been doing this for a long time, I'm far from knowing everything in Photoshop. Like, Photoshop is this ever evolving, like, changing monster of a program. And there's, like, stuff that I only picked up on this year, which is like adjustment layers and stuff like that, and like using masks. For a long time, what you see was what you got. Like, only this year did I start doing that stuff, and a lot of artists would consider it very basic. Like, what I do for most of my career was just like very, very simple, one layer, color, and you're done. Like, so, you know, I'm still learning stuff, and I'm 17 years in, if that means anything. So all we're doing is making our selection for the night here to be like separate from the background color of this like light blue. And we're just gonna do flats. We're gonna do another color when we come back next week, which is a nice way for me to segue into talking about streaming schedules. So I was kind of like, oh, I'm gonna stream and then I'm gonna play video games on Wednesdays, but then that like didn't really happen. And you know, I appreciate you guys bearing with me. Masks and yeah, are your life right now? Yeah, you were late discovering them, because they're not. I feel like when you talk to someone who is new at Photoshop, masks and layers and like adjustment layers, it's like, it seems crazy. Like, it seems like, okay, it's too much too fast. You know, it's like starting at the end of a video game rather than the beginning. You need the like small stuff. They got to train you how to walk before you run. Yeah, Magi, I agree. Schedules are tough. So, but okay, so this is where I came down on the schedule, is that like what I was doing, which was, oh, I'm gonna stream whenever, and I'm just gonna stream video games on Wednesdays, and that's like what I'll tell people, and that's what we'll do because I want to talk about new comics on Wednesdays. And, you know, Wednesdays when they come out. So like that's what we're gonna do, and I didn't understand like how yet to integrate a schedule into my like regular day. And it turns out a lot of times on Wednesdays, by the end of the day, I'm burnt out. Like, I don't want to do this. I've been working like all day. So but it, like, it's also like after 2 o'clock, you know, like I've let the dog out. I'm a little bit tired of what I've been doing all day, so it's a nice opportunity to like, you know, try something new, talk to you guys. So I'm like, okay, maybe we do 3 days a week, and I'm not even going to say which days we're going to do it, because I'm sure it's going to change based on deadlines that I have going on and like that kind of thing. But 3 days a week, Somewhere in the world of like 2:30 to 3 o'clock, we're going to be doing a Photoshop stream Monday to Friday, some 2 or 3 times a week, Monday to Friday in the afternoon Eastern time. We're going to be doing that, and that's something that I can definitely stick to. And then if we can, if the weekend is not crazy, we will do a stream of a game or a stream of whatever. I actually started to, okay, so we got our guy. Do a fill. And what color should we do? We'll probably just do like a regular armor color. I don't know why that thing is coming up like that. It's doing a fill, but then it's using the menu rather than like just freaking doing it. That's odd. Sometimes Photoshop does that to me, and I don't know why it does that. So I've been getting into the Elder Scrolls Legends, the card game, so we're going to be messing around with that. Masks took a while for you to wrap your mind around. Yeah. K. Michael Russell, by the way, he also streams. You should follow him. He's another great colorist. Yeah, it's a weird thing because it's like the advantage to masks is, and we'll cover this at some point, I'm sure, like you can take something, you can make a mask, and the mask doesn't have to be light, dark. It can be, you know, a texture. It can be like whatever, and it will mask that whatever it is that you're masking down onto the page. It's like an interesting thing. So, man, this is killing me that it's doing this. It's disrupting my flow. So like we're just doing, you know, a flow. We want to do the hair. And like so much of the flats for this is open to interpretation. I don't think that if you got 2 people to flat this thing, it would look a little bit different every time, because there's so much suggested light. Yeah. I feel like some projects, like I said, so Chemical Russell just said that he's been creating adjustment layers and rendering on them for like the layers beneath it, and that it works for him. And I think that I'm gonna like try to get into that, but fucking this thing's driving me nuts. I don't know if it's like a RGB thing or like I clicked a box at some point or whatever, but yes, foreground color, yes, please. So yeah, I feel like if it's on the right project, I want to use adjustment layers. The Realm was the book that like pushed me to try that kind of stuff out, because the Realm is so textury, and like when you put a texture over things, and I'm like starting to like really be hip and aware of like textures now. When I'm reading Jordi Bella's Redlands, and I picked up Matt Hollingsworth's Sean Murphy's book that just came out, White Knight, the Batman book. They're both using textures all over the place, and it's like when you put a texture, especially a colored texture, on top of already rendered pages, there's going to be spots where it looks fucking amazing, and then there's going to be spots where like you're going to be shocked at like how good it looks, and then there's going to be other spots where you're like, oh, it turned into trash mud over here. And you know, that kind of thing is real. So, and adjustment layers and masks and stuff like help with that. I feel like they have a good place for that. But you know, I also did like an Elsa cover for Captain Phasma on which is on my Instagram, which is Nick_Filardi, and it like even though I'm doing a lot of effects and I'm doing a lot of like stuff in that, it's like it's simple enough for me to keep track of mentally that I don't need to mask anything. I don't need to like make it weird or anything like that. Yeah, it's like it is what it is. So this obviously was something that was very easy to kind of flat. We're gonna do the eyes here. Part of the reason why the fill is on the right side of my monitor rather than the left side is because the color swatches are over there as well. So like I'll pick up the pen. Oop, that's my dog's dinner time. Go on, bud. Yeah, you can go on. Go eat. So like I'll tap the palette, the color that I want, and then like right next to it is where I press to fill it. Yeah. Texture tricks the eye. Yeah. Yeah, we do that. I do a lot of trickery in the realm, into thinking that you're putting in, or you're seeing more work than you're actually seeing, kind of thing. So we're just gonna do the eyeballs here. I know there's like a shine in the eye, but we can actually kind of go in with the brush and whoa, that was a little nuts. Yeah, so this guy's like pretty much flatted. There is, I mean, like we're gonna be doing smoke and rendering, and I'm actually gonna get into a couple little cheats with rendering. So the reason I picked this was because creepy tentacle texture. Yeah, I mean basically I want you to like, you know, see those tentacles and be a little sick in the realm. That's the goal. Oh my god. Man, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's like these monsters that Jeremy drew, and they have these like pustules on them, and I tried to make them as gross as possible. I really hope that I get we get some feedback on that. So yeah, when we get into coloring this thing, one of the goals that we have, and one of the reasons why I picked it, is because when you look at the line art, he's got such an intense like light source from the upper right side that shines in that, you know, there's not even like line art there. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to color. I think it's going to be really interesting to render, especially in the face. And I'm going to show you some tips and techniques that I use to kind of like, especially with something like this. Like this is something that needs, this is going to like, your level of like how much you buy into this piece is going to be in the light. And in order to sell that a little better, there's a lot of like tips and techniques that artists have been using over the years that we've refined into like other things, and using tech and all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into all that stuff. We're going to show you how to render light really well. And we're going to make a interesting piece out of this. Not that it's not all interesting already. Tony did a great job. And we're going to tackle this either Monday or Tuesday next week. Until then, you know, sit tight. We're streaming some Elder Scrolls Legends tomorrow. I think Boix might come on, and we might do a arena draft together. Talk about some cards and stuff. It's gonna be fun. I'm an old Magic player, so it's gonna be a blast. But yeah, this is done for now. I hope that the deep dive into all of my techniques and stuff like helps you out in flatting and makes you faster. And yes, you said that, do I record these videos? Yeah. So it's going to be available on Twitch with the chat for, I think, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But I'll port it over to my YouTube as well. And there's a link below here for the YouTube video. And you can kind of, if there's something that I went to, I like threw a lot of information at you, admittedly. If there's something that you want to go through and like check out and like slow down, by all means, it's there. It's going to be up on YouTube like probably tomorrow. Check it out there. Yeah, everything that we do here goes up on YouTube. So enjoy, and I will catch you guys later.